Fellas, we got an emergency press conference here. The day we've been waiting for. Aaron Rodgers, officially a New York Jet. How we feeling today?
I'm feeling pretty good as a Jet fan. It's been a long time coming. We've been waiting for the news to break. The trade consideration was something that people were curious what was ultimately going to be paid to get him, and now we know. Look, we've had such inept QB play over the past. I don't know. You can go back pretty damn far, and we finally have a legitimate adult in the room at the QB. So it's hard not to like it. Putting aside the compensation, which we'll get into in a second.
Right. Yeah, I remember the days of us watching Chad Pennington as like the latest, greatest Jets quarterback. He's probably the best quarterback we've had since Joe Namath, who was before our time, and it's been a lot of years of suffering.
I think Kenny O'Brien probably had a better career. We were little kids, but he probably had a better career than Pennington. But Pennington had the injury, too. But it's a nice move for the Jets, obviously, to get a guy like that. You got to see how he gels, because he's kind of like, you got cuckoo Aaron Rodgers, eating mushrooms and going on dark retreats, who hates the media. Now he's going into a pit of vipers with the New York media. So how long will that honeymoon last there? But that being said, the Jets are certainly a much more dangerous team now than they were before, for sure.
Look, the reality is that when you isolate that it's the most important position in sports, you couldn't have a larger swing of the pendulum than what the Jets are going to experience this year. We literally have an all-time bust in Zach Wilson moving to a top 2 or 3 quarterback of all time. You can't swing the pendulum any further in the situation than what the Jets are going to, hopefully, knock on wood, health and all things considered, experience this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they said last season for Aaron Rodgers, his stats with Green Bay would have been like the 3rd best season in like Jets history.
The Jets history have had one 30-touchdown passer in a season and one 3,000-yard passer in a season. I mean,
that's unbelievable.
Unbelievable. You can't make up how poor the Jets QB position has been throughout its history. I mean,
this isn't the Houston Texans you're talking about here. It's an established team that's won a Super Bowl and had some success.
Right. So it's an exciting day to be a Jet fan. It's playing out exactly how as I thought. You're going to have the Jets win the AFC East. You're going to have the Dolphins get a hard bid, and you're going to have the lonely Bills rounding out 3rd place in the AFC East.
Okay.
I mean, this is something that we've been waiting for, about 3 weeks now, a month to happen, and it finally did. But the Bills, they got their own little controversy happening too there, Joe, with Josh Allen. I mean, I know he had his longtime girlfriend start unfollowing him on Instagram. There's news of a potential baby coming along in the next few months here. I mean, what's your feeling about how things are for this offseason for Buffalo?
Yeah. Doesn't really, it's all conjecture at this point. I mean, the only thing we know for certain is that she unfollowed him. We don't know for sure what's happened in his personal life. So, I mean, that's not really, the biggest thing, on my radar. It's kind of just take a wait and see thing. It was such a emotional season for Buffalo Bills fans, given the expectations they had as the Super Bowl favorite. So it's kind of like a sigh of relief almost that they are not the Super Bowl favorite going in. That would, of course, be Kansas City at plus 600. I got the Eagles and Bills at 900. Your Jets are at 1,400.
Wow, up to 14-1.
Yep. Your second, the so-called second place Dolphins are plus 2,500.
Plus, what are the Bills?
The Bills are plus 900, tied with Philadelphia.
Okay,
which is just probably about right. So I don't know. I think a lot of these things get blown out of proportion. It's like, Diggs didn't go to the spring workouts, but here's a news flash: he's never gone.
Right.
But now they want to make it a big deal because of, the blow up on the sidelines and stuff like that. So, I mean, this stuff here, the extracurriculars is interesting to talk about. But at the end of the day, I mean, he did say he has a clearer head that he's had in years. So, is it that, he's got those problems? Maybe there was problems in the relationship, going on. And that's, not something he's going to worry about now. He can just focus on football. So that's a possibility too. But like I said, it's just a possibility.
Right. Yeah, well, we don't want that to take away from Aaron Rodgers' day, that's for sure. So, I mean, let's break down really a little bit about what the Jets roster looks like with adding Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he's obviously going to be handing the ball off to Breece Hall, coming back from an ACL injury. Obviously that's not the easiest thing to come back from, but that guy looked like he was ahead of schedule all through his rehab now, and probably the happiest guy in the world right now. I wish we could get a live camera on Garrett Wilson to see his reaction to the news for Aaron Rodgers. That guy's got to be through the moon, obviously, with his, he had obviously some behaviors on the field where he was pretty upset when the ball wasn't getting thrown his way or really thrown all over the place with Zach Wilson.
Yeah. And then Rodgers got some of those players off his wish list, didn't he? From his list of demands.
The receiving corps is Garrett Wilson. He brought Lazard in from Green Bay, who's had a couple of odd years as the bigger body wide receiver, which the Jets did not have. They still have Corey Davis. They traded Elijah Moore, but on the same day pick up Mecole Hardman, who's a nice player out of the slot, who's dynamic. They have a couple of tight ends and Conklin and Uzama, and then Jeremy Ruckert, who was a third-round pick last year. So they have, they have some pieces, that looks better than, putting aside, Devontae Adams, which I think is an outlier for Rodgers' career. I mean, it's about as good as a total package of weapons that he's probably had in some time now. Devontae Adams has always obviously been a great receiver, but Garrett Wilson had an amazing year with Zach Wilson and Mike White throwing him the ball. So we'll see what he can actually, what his ceiling actually looks like with Rodgers throwing him the ball.
Well, and not for nothing too. I mean, it's not like we're asking this guy to come out and put up 35 points a game here, Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's one of the most elite defenses in the league right now. So if he's putting up 24 points a game, 28 points a game, there's a good chance that they could win most of those games. It's a different ball game that he's playing with. Green Bay hasn't traditionally had the best defenses either.
Yeah, and they do, but I wonder just though, when you're playing some of the high power teams, is 20-something points going to be enough?
I mean, it seemes like it should be.
When you're playing the Bengals, when you're playing the Bills, the Chiefs, is that enough points? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe those games you need to score a little bit more, but we're talking about a team that hasn't sniffed the playoffs in 12 years.
Oh yeah.
So I'm saying, to give yourself a legitimate shot to win 11, 12 games, and be a playoff team, you're not going to have to score 30 points a game, which, we haven't had the opportunity to do. We relied on our defense to hold people to 7 and hope to score 10. It's a little bit of a different scenario now.
Yeah, look, there's still a lot of questions around the offensive line. There was a revolving door tackle last year. I mean, they went down to their 5th and 6th tackles last year. They have Mekhi Becton, who appears to be in excellent shape with his repaired knee, and he's lost 60 pounds. If he can come back, that's a major wild card. I think it's a big upside case if he can stay healthy. But they need to use the draft picks that they have now and improve the offensive line, because the only chance they have of Aaron Rodgers coming back for more than 1 year is if they keep him upright. If they don't keep him upright, it's going to be done after the first year. So they have to use the 2 picks to improve the offensive line, make them feel comfortable. They have weapons, and so they need to address that part of it. And hopefully, guys come back. Elijah Vera-Tucker, Mekhi Becton, these guys come back healthy, and they can build a little bit of a wall in front of them.
Yeah, and Vegas seems to agree with you, because one thing I found interesting is you could actually bet on who teams are going to pick, but also the position they're going to draft. So the overwhelming favorite for the Jets is a tackle.
Yep.
The favorite is Paris Johnson from Ohio State. He's plus 275. Broderick Jones out of Georgia's plus 300.
Yeah.
Peter Skorinski, Northwestern 500. They got
Yep.
Joey Porter Jr. in there too. That would be a pretty scary set of corners there. He's 650. And then Darnell White from Tennessee at 950. So it seems like that's the way that the Jets are going to go, and it makes sense. Go for the tackle.
Yeah, look, they moved from 13 to 15 as part of the deal. And it's widely considered that there's 4 tackle prospects that would come off the board in the first, call it 17, 18 picks. So they're keeping themselves in that range to get one of those guys. Depending on how the board falls, I would think that if I were a betting man on the position, I would say it's 90+% that they go tackle with their pick. Maybe it's higher, but the only reason why maybe it would be higher, or I should say lower, is because maybe they want to get something on the defensive line and they can use 43 on an interior lineman and move some guys around. But I think that's a safe bet.
Yeah.
They're going to take tackle.
I would be shocked if they didn't.
Yeah, they got Brian Brees in there out of Clemson at plus 1,000 as the first defensive lineman listed for the Jets. The Bills are now favored to take a defensive lineman, and a lot of fans aren't happy about that because they've spent so much draft capital. They're plus 150 for a defensive lineman, and then plus 300 for a linebacker just positionally. Wide receiver plus 390. So,
well, the Jets were notorious for taking defensive linemen and then not re-signing them. Quinnen Williams is probably the first one that potentially will get a long-term deal out of the Jets. So I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of going to that position so early in the draft, especially if it's not part of like the long-term strategy.
Yeah.
I mean, you got like you said, we got to protect Aaron Rodgers at all costs. Let's be super deep at offensive line. I mean, the defense is pretty well taken care of. Like, that would be crazy to go defense first with the returning players on D now.
Glenn, what's your overall take on the trade compensation?
I think the trade compensation is fair. If you're the Jets, like, I don't think we thought we were going to get out of there really without giving any type of first round pick, but it gives us some trade protection. For God forbid if something does happen and he gets injured, it stays a second round pick. But if we get 65% plus of the season, all right, it's warranted that we give up next year's first round pick for a potential Hall of Fame caliber quarterback that's playing 70% of the season. We didn't lose anything this year. 2 picks is great. Like you said, there's probably 4 linemen. So, you're kind of rolling the dice on which guy you get in that scenario. And we keep our picks. Like, we got that 42nd and 43rd pick when we traded Elijah Moore, so we're still in the second round. I mean, I don't think any Jets fan would be upset.
We had to give up 42 for him.
Well, that's what I mean. We gave up 1, so we're still in the first round. We're still in the second round, and we got Aaron Rodgers. I mean,
it's a lot of capital, but I think if you look at like the Russell Wilson trade or the Matthew Stafford trade, it's pretty fair in terms of the New York Jets. And I think it's probably pretty good for the Packers too, because, Aaron Rodgers, I think, is a much different situation than Russell Wilson being traded, who's obviously a younger player. Stafford's a little older, and all the hits that guy's taken as well. Who knows how much longer he has left, but the Jets definitely didn't overpay. That's for sure. It seems to be like it's a fair trade, if not a good price for the New York Jets.
Yes.
Well, I read that also.
Yeah. When you look at, the famous Jimmy Johnson trade value chart, and you sort of calculate all the pieces back and forth, basically what it equates to is a mid-first round pick this year, assuming that the 2 goes to a 1 next year. He plays the snaps and moves from a 2 to a 1. It basically, because it discounts a future pick for this year.
Mm-hmm.
So basically it comes back to like a mid-first round pick this year. So my view is this: it's first of all, like I just want Aaron Rodgers on the team. Like I don't,
Yeah.
Within reason, I wasn't gonna care about the consideration, but like if he plays 1 year and it's a 9 or 10 win season and it doesn't really materialize, it was a lot. If he plays 2 years I think it's almost like regardless of outcome, he played 2 years, and it is what it is. And if he plays 1 year and they have a run and they're in the AFC championship game or have some level of success around that, then then it's fair. But there's a lot of rumblings that they paid too much because he's 40, he can only play 1 year, and but yeah.
They definitely did not overpay. Also, look at what I mean. Not obviously, Deshaun Watson's older too.
Yeah.
I think Matthew Stafford's the better comparison, probably, and Rodgers is probably the better quarterback than Matthew Stafford. So, I mean, I don't know if I'm qualified to say what the Jets fans should be happy with. I don't know, but like, I would think you would want a playoff berth out of the trade to make it worth it.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. Definitely.
If they don't get a playoff berth, assuming health and everything plays out like that, then he hit like the 40-year-old wall and just fell off the cliff. I mean, if he's like, we should have been in the playoffs last year with the most inept QB play you can possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not going to.
Yeah.
If he's on the field, he's not going to be anywhere near as bad as the QB play we had last year. If he gives us 3,500 yards and 30 touchdowns, that's as good of a Jets QB season in the history of the organization. Like, they will be in the playoffs. Now, what happens in the playoffs? Obviously, the gauntlet of the AFC is a whole different story. But
it's brutal.
What it does more so than anything is it at least gives us a seat at the table. That's it. Like, that's all you can ask for. You go into Buffalo, you go into Kansas City, you go into Cincinnati, you have a legitimate shot of winning that game. Like, you're not going in there saying we have no chance of winning this game. It's probably a tight spread game, and you're going in there with an equivalent roster. In some areas, better, frankly.
Yep. Yeah, so let's listen to these. So here's Aaron Rodgers' last 3 years: 2020, 4,299 yards, 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 120 quarterback rating. 21, 4,115, 37 and 4, 111, and last year 3,700, 26 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. I don't think any Jets fans is not going to roll the dice.
By the way, with a broken finger on his throwing hand last year, and his weapons were fairly new, and his offensive line Bakhtiari was banged up. I mean, that's a down year. That's his worst year of his career, pretty much. And it's like the best year of a Jets quarterback in history if we had that year.
Yeah, no, and he obviously played through the injury. It was something they talked about every single week on CBS and Fox. So, you knew it was someone was bothering him. You could see him laboring with it. So that's really not a concern of mine. But I think Joe hit the nail on the head, and it's really just about strategy of like your team. So Denver went all in with Russell Wilson with a team where they felt was like almost there. That didn't work out, but look at Matt Stafford, though. The Rams won the Super Bowl with taking the same strategy. The only difference with Brady, I think, was he's a free agent, so they didn't have to give up anything. That one kind of just worked out really well for them. But dude, the Rams literally felt like they had the roster to win a Super Bowl with just a quarterback piece away, and the Jets are in a similar scenario. So it's like, I think they're in a much like the roster. I think the Jets compared to Denver's. Like, there's really not much of a comparison. Like, you can't really stack up Denver's roster is nowhere near as good as the Jets is at this point when they got Wilson. So I think they're more probably somewhere in between, but leaning more towards the Rams. Will they win the Super Bowl? I think you guys talked about it. The AFC is murderer's row. Anything could happen when it comes there. But, man, am I looking forward to a potential Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers playoff game. I mean, that could be absolutely amazing for us.
Look, I think
two divisional games are going to be exciting.
Look,
I
think a couple of things too. One is the Jets play a fourth place schedule next year.
Yeah,
in their favor. And the other thing too is I actually think that I think Rodgers. The last time Rodgers was motivated like this was when they drafted Jordan Love, and he went on a run because he was motivated for back-to-back MVPs. I actually feel like he has a level of motivation now because he feels disrespected by Green Bay and how they handled this. So I actually think he's going to come in with the right mindset and be motivated to have a good year. So I don't know. I think the stars are aligned to to for it to be a great year. And knock on wood, it's the Jets, so it's probably week 1 where he Mekhi Becton falls into his leg and breaks his leg or something. We can
let's hope not. Yeah. I don't know. I think Green Bay's pretty happy too. Not even with just the trade compensation, with just like it's their point to move on from Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they guaranteed him like $50-something million, so you knew that he wasn't going to be coming back this year, just from all the conversation that Aaron Rodgers was even saying to other people. So I think it was a good deal all around. I think everyone kind of got what they wanted out of it.
Yeah.
And we knew this was going to happen. I mean, if this went past the trade deadline, I don't even know. I think it would have been more, past the draft. I think it would have been more likely that the guy retired than played for any team. I mean, it had to get done before the draft, or it made no sense.
What's funny too is the clips are going viral now. Is the Zach Wilson on like his exit interview at the end of the season? He was like, one of the, I think it was Rich Cimini from the beat was like, Zach, there's a lot of rumors about the Jets bringing in a veteran quarterback. If they sign a veteran quarterback in March, like, how are you going to take that? He's like, I'm going to make that quarterback's life a living hell. And then there's these videos saying that, and then it cuts to like Aaron Rodgers like walking into the parking
lot. Well, what did Robert Saleh tell him to go read a book in the off season?
It's like, yeah, Zach Wilson is going to make Aaron Rodgers like hell.
Oh yeah,
okay.
I think they actually get along though, right? I mean, there's a lot of talks about like he really looked up to Aaron Rodgers, but he's not exactly the greatest mentor in the world. But we're not bringing him in here to mentor anyone. I'd be shocked if the Jets don't go quarterback in next year's draft. If Aaron Rodgers stays for 2 years and start over.
Yeah, and we'll see how much he looks up to him when he took your job. It's a lot different situation.
Yeah.
Right. Well, if there's any chance of him succeeding, it's learning from one of the best that's ever done it. So, I mean, it's kind of a, he might not be the mentor that takes you under his wing, but just by having that visual every single day, you're going to see how a professional does the job. So
I think the Jets, assuming that they're being honest and that they're trying to hit the reset button with Zach Wilson, like I actually think they're going into the season treating this like it's his rookie year.
Right.
I think it's like we're gonna sit him down for like 2 years, hopefully, and like treat him like he was just drafted and let him hit the reset button, let him learn under Rodgers like he should have done, like had a veteran quarterback, a real veteran ahead of him when he came into the league, and they're just gonna hit the full reset button. But I don't know. I think partially because there's no buyers of Zach Wilson, so
right.
Him. So I don't know. We'll see with that. I mean, hopefully they just kind of put him in the corner and make him shut up and go away.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, they said they think he's going to be the backup, which is honestly surprising to me. But.
Well, I remember seeing something that they're like screwed if they cut him because of like cap reasons. It would have been a massive cap hit to cut or trade him.
Like $20 million of dead money. You can't cut him. You have to find someone. It's like almost one of these things where it's like if you had a buyer, it's like a 7th round pick and like you give him Zach Wilson in like a 6th. You have to like pay for him.
Yeah, it's so bad. You can't cut him. You can't trade him. We're stuck with him. Yeah, we can't do anything with that guy.
But yeah, it's look. I think the other thing that's important too is like, when the guys get in the huddle now, the other 10 guys, it's like, they're not looking at Bryce Petty or Zach Wilson or Mike White. It's like everyone's game now has to elevate because they're looking at Aaron Rodgers. It's like, you better be ready for like the ball to be snapped when he realizes that there's 12 guys on the other side of the field and then quick snaps it. Or like all these things, everyone has to elevate their game now. So I think it's exciting from that perspective because everyone – everyone's going to have to elevate their game. So you're going to see, I think, the ceiling of a lot of the players on the team because they're going to be motivated. They're going to be working harder. Right? It's just what happens when you have a guy like Rodgers step into the field.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how many people show up for these voluntary workouts now that probably initially didn't plan on it. He's definitely going to have some demands and we need to get our ass into practice and start working and developing some chemistry.
Yeah, he historically hasn't shown up to voluntary stuff, but obviously, mandatory training camp is going to be, or the mandatory OTAs will be there, and they'll get some chemistry that way. But I think that's why they got the Green Bay the backup Boyle. So like when he's not there for like the voluntary stuff, he can be sort of the de facto, QB coach on the field and like teaching guys the offense and doing different things with that. But I think he's going to have the guys out in California throwing. Like it's going to all come together now. I mean, he wants to win, man. I mean, he's reworking his deal, right? He's recruiting players. I mean, he wants to win.
He's also got a bunch of new guys too to brush up on his conspiracy theories with.
Dude, the fact that bringing probably the biggest bust in NFL coaching history in to be our offensive coordinator has now turned into Aaron Rodgers playing quarterback for the Jets is such an unbelievable sequence of events that actually happened and it actually worked out. All the lunches and videos and everything of Nathaniel Hackett, who had the worst season with Russell Wilson as his quarterback, is now the key piece to bringing Aaron Rodgers to New York. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It's not. I go back to it's going to be in typical Jets fashion. Something's going to happen. He's going to get injured or some crazy nonsense is going to happen to derail the season. It just doesn't happen like this for a Jet fan.
Oh yeah, there's no way.
I thought the Jets were winning the division and the Bills are finishing third.
No, we will. Something will definitely happen. Yeah. There's no doubt.
That's my optimism, but then it's reality, Joe.
All right. The biggest question mark I would think for the Jets is probably Breece Hall coming back from that ACL. I mean, the best thing going for him is he's a young guy. I don't know if there's any correlation there, but he's a young guy coming back. Maybe that helps. I don't know. Than an older player like a Von Miller, for example, coming back from that injury.
Yeah, by all reports, they say he's going to be ready, but I think it's probably going to be some serious load management, like no training camp reps, like eases into game one, has like 5 or 6 carries, that type of thing, and then build him up for like the October on. I mean, that's would be my guess. I mean, that he's just too important. Like you can't rush him back.
Right. I mean, the size of the holes this guy's going to be able to run through with Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. I mean, think about like how many guys were just loading out on the run last year with Mike White and with Zach Wilson and Flacco. Like these guys are now going to have huge holes because they're going to have to put 5-6 guys back there to play coverage.
Again, if people forget how good Mekhi Becton was his rookie year, I mean, he was incredible. And road grader in the run game. Myles Garrett, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa, no sacks allowed. I mean, he was elite. If he returns to any level of that, sitting next to Vera Tucker, they're gonna have some good pieces there. I mean, they're gonna open up some holes for him. Versus Dwayne Brown, who's who's older than Rodgers at this point.
Oh yeah. I know there was talk of Bakhtiari potentially looking at the Jets too, right? I mean,
yeah.
But he's coming off an injury as well. Yeah, but still, I mean, I don't know. It could be
Joe,
worse.
You tell me. What do you think? As you know it right now, pre-draft, how would you rank the AFC East?
Bills, Jets, Dolphins, Patriots, a distant fourth.
Distant, yeah.
Well, that is going to be fun. We need to just pound those guys.
Yeah.
And you think Bills take the division, Jets wild card, Dolphins maybe sneak in the wild card too? Or do you think 2 teams?
It's possible. I mean, who knows the Tua situation? Yeah. I mean, he had head injury on top of head injury.
Yeah.
So who knows for them? They're screwed without him, obviously. So we'll see. I think Bills and Jets will probably be pretty close within a couple of games, I would think.
Tua goes down, enter Mike White. Mike White ruins the Jets season.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. That would be brutal. Yeah, they'll bring Ryan Fitzpatrick back.
Oh, my God.
That's funny. Yeah. Oh, it's an exciting day for Jets fans. Glad we were able to kind of hop on and talk a little Aaron Rodgers football. We got the draft coming up this weekend, so it's back to a little football talk, which is pretty exciting.
Sure. All right,
Joe.
All right, gentlemen.
All right. Good catching up. We'll see you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Rivals Sports Pod. Please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. You can also email us at rivalsportspod@gmail.com with any topics, ideas, or questions.